The going Luffy Senpai sails through the New World, and the Barto Club eagerly treats the Straw Hat Pirates to a feast. Suddenly, large chunks of hail start falling, and Bartolomeo tells the Straw Hats to get inside. They refuse, wanting to help, and ask where their navigator is. The Barto Club reveals that they have no navigator, and they just call their granny back home if they need any help. Gambia calls her to ask about the hail, but to the Straw Hat's shock, she only gives domestic advice like getting gum off the deck and treating lumps caused by the hail. The Straw Hats begin panicking, and Zoro asks why Bartolomeo is not blocking the hail with his barrier, but Bartolomeo replies that their granny told them not to defy nature. Luffy then jumps onto the masthead and rapidly blows away the hail coming for them, causing the Barto Club to gawk in admiration and Bartolomeo to reflect on how happy he is to be traveling with Luffy. That night, the pirates sleep on the deck. Luffy gets hungry and gets up, which Bartolomeo notices. He gets up and follows Luffy, wanting to be with him and assist him if possible. Suddenly, a giant piece of meat flies over the ship, and Luffy eagerly grabs onto it, and a shocked Bartolomeo follows him. They are pulled onto a floating platform, and Peseta remarks in awe that Desire, the woman in front of Luffy and Bartolomeo, managed to capture Luffy. The Straw Hats wake up and confront the kidnappers, with Usopp firing a pop green. However, Desire and her accomplices destroy it, and Frankie attacks with weapons left. He knocks one of the kidnappers off her boat, but is otherwise unsuccessful as Desire rescues her accomplice. Peseta and his men then fire cannonballs at the going Luffy Senpai, but these balls release a sticky substance which traps the Straw Hats in the Barto Club. The kidnappers then escape with Luffy and Bartolomeo in tow. On Silver Mine, a deserted island near Dressrosa, a group of people bring treasure and a pirate to the giant silver fortress in the center. Inside, Bill sits on a throne, eating pieces of rock and exuding a molten substance as he heads out. Meanwhile, Bartolomeo is forced to mine for ore, with Peseta whipping him if he stops working. Bartolomeo asks him if Luffy is all right, and Peseta affirms this, but says that might not be the case 10 minutes from now. Bartolomeo attacks Peseta with his pickaxe, but Peseta leaves, with Bartolomeo being unable to make a barrier because his hands are stuck to the pickaxe. Meanwhile, Luffy is in a jail cell, with his entire body below the neck being enveloped in a silver ball, and he futilely attempts to escape somehow. Desire and the Sweet Pirates visit him, revealing that they destroyed the going Luffy Senpai and that they are the ultimate weapons group thanks to Bill's Gutsu no Mai. Luffy shouts that she is lying, which deeply angers Desire, but Luffy stops yelling as he gets weak from hunger. He asks Desire if he can eat the meat that she lured him with, and she refuses, but eventually lets him eat some of her chocolate. She then gets a call and tells her accomplices that it is time. Bill walks into an auditorium, with his henchmen all chanting his name excitedly. He greets his crew, the Silver Pirate Alliance, and some of his men present wanted pirates that they had captured. Desire then arrives with Luffy in tow, and the pirates are shocked that they captured the famous pirate. Bill tells his men that they have come together to form a large crew of high strength, and have defeated over 100 enemy crews in the process. By building up enough strength, they will aim to be the top pirates in the world, even surpassing the 4 emperors. Bill presents the bodies of their enemies, all mummified in metal, and tells Luffy that this is where he will end up as he reaches into his molten chest, revealing that he ate the Gutsu no Mai and became a blast furnace human. As some molten lava launches from Bill's body, Bartolomeo suddenly comes flying up through the stage, ready to defend Luffy. He holds back the Silver Pirate Alliance with his pickaxe, but the pickaxe is broken by Desire. Bartolomeo fully realizes that it is Desire and asks her what she is doing here, but she replies that it is none of his business. Bill pulls 2 molten swords out of his chest and attacks Luffy, who rolls away, and Bill's attack cuts into the silver ball and melts part of it. Luffy and Bartolomeo are cornered by the Silver Pirate Alliance, but Luffy is intent on escaping as he rolls through the pirates, and Bartolomeo chases after him. Luffy bowls over more pirates as he rolls up a ramp, but loses the energy Desire's chocolate bar gave him and rolls back down and back into the stage, rolling into the exit on the opposite side. An angry Bill orders his subordinates to chase Luffy and Bartolomeo, and Desire and her crewmates return to their battle boats. Luffy and Bartolomeo rest outside, having lost their pursuers, and Luffy trusts Bartolomeo to guard him while he is in the silver ball, which the pirate is eagerly willing to do. Luffy gets hungry and wishes he had more of Desire's chocolate, and Bartolomeo reveals that he and Desire were once childhood friends. They went out to sea separately, but Bartolomeo wonders why she is an enemy to them now. Suddenly, they are confronted by Desire and her crew, and run away. The Sweet Pirates pursue them on their racers, and Desire offers to have Bill spare her old friend Bartolomeo if he hands over Luffy, but an unwavering Bartolomeo refuses to betray his idol as he starts rolling with the silver ball. An angered Desire fires cannonballs rapidly at Luffy and Bartolomeo, but ends up creating a chasm which the two pirates fall into. However, Desire is unable to stop in time and falls into the chasm as well, and her stopped crewmates look down in shock. At Bill's throne, Tanaka arrives through the floor, wondering what the outside ruckus is. Pizetta presents a large quantity of silver to Tanaka, which he is grateful for. Bill tells Tanaka to greet Gild Tesoro for him, and also to take care of the wanted pirates they had captured. Suddenly, Pizetta gets a call and tells Bill that Luffy, Bartolomeo, and Desire have fallen into the abyss. Bill tells him to call Averon, and inside an underground mine track, Averon gets Pizetta's call and turns his hands and feet into wheels as he prepares to depart. In an underground tunnel in Silver Mine, Bartolomeo frees himself from a pile of ore he was buried in after falling. He looks for Luffy and thinks that he has fallen into a nearby chasm due to his straw hat being on the edge of it, but to his relief Luffy calls out from another pile of ore, which Bartolomeo frees him from. Desire then gets up from her fall and sees her battle boat in ruins. As Bartolomeo gives Luffy his straw hat back, Desire petitions Bartolomeo to let her have Luffy, and Bartolomeo refuses, asking her why she is enemies with them. Luffy looks up and wonders why there are a lot of train tracks up above them, and Averon wheels down a set of tracks elsewhere. Desire attempts to contact someone, but gets no reception, and admits to Bartolomeo that she has no knowledge of the tracks despite being in the Silver Pirate Alliance. Suddenly, Averon alerts the trio that he is coming, and he rolls right toward Luffy. Averon reveals that he ate the Koro Koro no Mai, allowing him to roll on the train tracks, and it is his duty to eliminate anyone who stumbles into the underground mines. Luffy, Bartolomeo, and Desire manage to get out of Averon's way as he speeds right past them, and Desire wonders why he tried to attack her as well. Averon turns around and turns his front wheels back into hands, reaching into the lid on his back and pulling out bombs. Bartolomeo and Desire push the encased Luffy along the tracks as they race away from Averon, who throws his bombs at them. Bartolomeo and Desire end up running in place on the rolling Luffy as they traverse the twists and jumps of the rail tracks. They eventually come to a fork in the tracks and decide to go right, but Averon reveals that they are headed for hell as the pirates roll and fall into a deep chasm. Averon reports to Bill where the pirates are headed as he prepares to follow them, and in his throne room, Bill assures Desire's crewmates that his units are searching for her. Luffy, Bartolomeo, and Desire get up at the bottom of the chasm, and they hear Averon pursuing them. Luffy curses being trapped in a silver ball, and Desire brags that Bill's creations cannot be broken that easily, causing Bartolomeo to question why she is proud of Bill after his subordinate tried to kill her. However, Desire replies that a traitor like him has no right to say that, which confuses him. Desire tells her old friend that when they were younger they had promised to aim for the top together, but she set off alone with her friends after Bartolomeo decided to help Luffy become Pirate King instead. She reveals that her crew met with tragedy as all but 4 of them were shot down and killed by an enemy ship. As they were floating in the wreckage, they were approached by Bill, who rescued them and accepted them into his alliance, giving Desire his large battle boat. Desire says that she was glad to meet someone who shared her ideals and that everyone else in the alliance trusted Bill too. She captured Luffy in order to please Bill, and also because she knew about Bartolomeo's dedication to him. Bartolomeo still refuses to trust Bill, and as Desire argues with him, the trio are suddenly approached by 4 miners. The miners take them to a house in a mining colony, where Bartolomeo tries to get rid of the sticky substance binding his hands by dipping them in hot water. The miners find out that the pirates were also dropped into their location, but fail to break the silver ball Luffy is encased in. Luffy wonders what this place is, and the miners reveal that they were enslaved and forced to work in the underground mines by Bill after they failed to bring him treasure and wanted pirates. An appalled Desire runs out, struggling to reconcile her vision of Bill with the one the miners presented. Luffy asks if there is any way to escape, but the miners reveal that Averon always thwarts any of their attempts. Averon suddenly calls out as he gets closer to the mining colony, and Bartolomeo hurriedly tries to free his hands. As Averon reaches the bottom, Desire confronts him and asks if Bill really ordered him to kill her, which he affirms, causing Desire to rush and attack him. Averon throws many bombs at her, but she deflects all of them, and Bartolomeo frees his hands as the miners cheer for Desire. Suddenly, Averon throws a bomb at Luffy, Bartolomeo, and the miners, throwing them to the ground. He then races toward Luffy and pulls out a drill bill specially made for him in order to impale Luffy with it. He plunges the spinning drill into Luffy's ball, but the attack is too low and only destroys the ball, freeing Luffy. As Luffy confronts Averon, the railcar man pulls out his most powerful weapons and rushes at his opponent with a giant silver hammer, but Luffy shatters it. Averon then shoots cannonballs upward at Luffy, but he sends them flying back down with jet gatling, injuring Averon. Averon then escapes into the mine tunnels, and Luffy and Bartolomeo pursue him. He manages to keep an advantage by quickly changing direction, leaving bombs behind each time, but Luffy and Bartolomeo continue the chase. After Averon dodges a jet Gatling attack, Bartolomeo tells Luffy to leave this to him, and he puts a barrier over the track that leads into a loop going back to them. Averon is sent flying toward Luffy by the loop, and Luffy finishes him off with Jet Bazooka, causing Averon to fly backward and set off the bombs he left behind, which cause him to fly back until he returns to the mining colony, dazed and defeated. The miners and Desire are shocked by Averon's defeat as Luffy and Bartolomeo return and prepare to leave the mining colony. In Bill's throne room, Bill and Peseta find out about Averon's defeat, and Bill decides to bury everyone inside the underground mine. In the underground mining colony on Silvermine, Luffy, Bartolomeo, and Desire prepare to escape by taking a train track leading above ground. Bartolomeo is excited to follow Luffy, as it makes him feel like a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. Desire turns to the enslaved miners and asks if they want to come with them, but the miners refuse, not wanting to face Bill's wrath. Bartolomeo assures them that Luffy will beat Bill, but they are skeptical of that. However, Desire says that they are only waiting to die down here, so it would be better to take their chances at gaining freedom. The miners decide to accompany them, and they run up the track. However, the group is ambushed by Peseta and his men, who fire cannons at them. The track collapses from the explosions, and Luffy uses Gomu Gomu no Fusion to soften his allies' landing. The tracks start falling down on the pirates and miners, but Bartolomeo blocks them with his barrier, and he throws the barrier upward at Peseta to hit him with the pieces of track it collected. Peseta dodges the strike and admires the barrier, and Bartolomeo creates a barrier staircase leading outside. Peseta and his men once more shoot at the ascending pirates and miners, with Peseta knowing that Bartolomeo can only create a limited area of barrier, which he used on the staircase. The pirates and miners manage to escape the cannon blasts, but Peseta assures one of his men that he has backup plans ready. A platoon of Silver Pirate Alliance members come and block the entrance, firing packs full of Bill's molten ore. However, one of the miners is suddenly replaced by Kin Emon, who cuts through the deluge of ore. The miner Kin Emon replaced is transported to the going Luffy Senpai, which has docked at Silver Mine. Law had used shambles to switch the two, and he is left exhausted by the effort. Inside the mine, Luffy knocks out the Silver Pirate Alliance members as he and his allies finally escape the mine. However, Peseta confronts them once again and prevents them from going any further, as he raises up Desire's captured crewmates hung on a piece of track. Peseta uses his hostages to force the pirates and miners to surrender, but the hostages are suddenly cut free by Zoro. Peseta laughs at Zoro's arrival, remembering how Zoro got caught in his adhesive shell the last time they met. An angry Bartolomeo attempts to attack Peseta, but Luffy holds him back because this is Zoro's fight. Peseta fires adhesive shells at Zoro, but Zoro cuts through all of them without getting anything stuck on him. Zoro tells a shocked Peseta that it is shameful for a swordsman to get something stuck on him like that, and he uses 3-sword style to create a whirlwind that sends Peseta and his men flying away, all of them stuck in adhesive. Desire regroups with her crew and tells them to go to the port, but says that she will stay behind a bit longer as she pulls out her blade. The sweet pirates go out to sea to wait for her, and the miners depart as well, thanking the trio for freeing them. Luffy and Bartolomeo question if Desire aims to settle things with Bill, which she affirms, and she apologizes to Luffy for her rudeness to him earlier. Zoro and Kin tell Luffy and Bartolomeo that they should get back to the going Luffy Senpai, and the four of them run off. Suddenly, a giant wave of molten ore falls onto the wooden bridge, destroying part of it and separating Luffy and Bartolomeo from Zoro and Kin Emon. Bill then appears and Luffy tells Zoro and Kin Emon to go on without them. Bill laments letting Zoro escape, but he is eager to get his hands on Luffy and his bounty. At sea, the going Luffy Senpai comes under attack by battle boat riders, whom Usopp and Frankie successfully repel this time, and Law wonders where Luffy is. On Silver Mine, Desire tells Luffy and Bartolomeo that she will settle things with Bill, but Bill replies that his way of settling things is to smelt everybody on the island. Desire is shocked at this, and Bill states that his true aim is to collect the bounties of the people who allied with him. For that reason, he recruited Desire, a natural leader, by annihilating most of her fleet and rescuing the survivors. Desire becomes enraged at Bill for betraying her, and she prepares to attack him. Luffy, Bartolomeo, and Desire confront Bill, who mocks their dreams of reaching the top of the New World as childish. Bill reveals to Desire that he used everyone in his Silver Pirate Alliance to give him wealth so that he could live the most luxurious life in the world, and questions whether she really intends to defeat him and if she really believes she is stronger than him. Bill taunts Desire, and she starts rushing at him in anger, but Luffy suddenly flies in front of her with Gear 2 activated and punches Bill into a cliff face. Bill gets back up, and Desire attempts to help Luffy, but Bartolomeo tells her to leave the fight to Luffy. Bill expresses his disgust for Luffy as he pulls two swords out of his chest, but Luffy shatters them in their clash. Bill then pulls out an axe, but Luffy dodges its strikes and kicks Bill in the chest before punching him into another cliff face. Bill gets back up and realizes just how strong a person with a Belay 500 million bounty really is. Right then, a Silver Pirate Alliance battle boat squadron arrives at the scene, and Bill tricks them into thinking Desire brought the Straw Hats here to betray them while Desire attempts to tell them the truth about Bill. The Silver Pirate Alliance members attack Luffy, Bartolomeo, and Desire as Bill prepares to kill them all with a bazooka. However, Luffy uses Haoshoku Haki to knock out the pirates in their battle boats, leaving Bill alone and shocked. Luffy sees where Bill is, and Bill fires a cannonball at him, but Luffy shatters it as he punches Bill into the underground mine. Bill lands deep underground, and Tanaka suddenly arrives at his location. Tanaka expresses disappointment that Bill was defeated by a mere pirate and says that the monster of the New World will discard him for such a failure. Bill remembers how the monster of the New World brought him and his crew down to their knees with the power of money, and frantically begins eating lots of ore in an attempt to salvage his fate. Tanaka notes the large amount of ore Bill is consuming, but decides to leave things up to him as he departs. Meanwhile, Luffy, Bartolomeo, and Desire run to the shore when they are suddenly passed by several Silver Pirate Alliance members. To their shock, the ground underneath them begins erupting with molten ore. Meanwhile, at the Going Luffy Senpai, the Straw Hats and Barto Club continue fighting off the Silver Pirate Alliance as Zoro and Kin Iman return and help them. The pirates wonder why Luffy and Bartolomeo are taking so long, and they notice that Silver Mine is beginning to melt away. On Silver Mine, Luffy, Bartolomeo, and Desire are approached by Bill, who is incredibly large and exuding molten ore from his skin. The trio decides to retreat, but Bill shoots out several waves of molten ore at them, which Bartolomeo manages to block with a barrier. However, the trio struggles to dodge the flow of ore, and Desire accidentally falls into a chasm, but Bartolomeo catches her. Desire wonders why he is helping her instead of Luffy, and Bartolomeo replies that he would never forsake a friend, although Desire replies that he did that to her. Bill prepares to attack Luffy with molten ore, but Bartolomeo manages to pull Desire up in time for him to put a barrier in front of Luffy. The two of them prepare to defeat Bill, and Bartolomeo creates a barrier hand to push the molten ore back at Bill. Bill then appears before them coated in silver, and he says that their dreams are not enough to help them survive the new world as he creates a ball of molten ore in the air. As Bill prepares to hurl it at the trio, Luffy rushes at him and hits him with Gomu Gomu no Grizzly Magnum, breaking through the ball of ore and sending Bill flying into his palace. Bartolomeo is excited to have seen Luffy fight, but Desire notes that the molten ore Bill created is still there and is eating away at the island. At the coast, the Silver Pirate Alliance and the Sweet Pirates get everyone onto a large ship as they prepare to escape the island's destruction. The Sweet Pirates worry about Desire but are forced to set sail. Meanwhile, the Straw Hats and Barto Club are worried about Luffy and Bartolomeo, but Zoro is confident that they are all right since Luffy's Viver card is fine. Right then, Luffy, Bartolomeo, and Desire come riding in on Desire's battle boat. Inside Silver Mine, molten ore pours into the fortress as the entire island sinks into the ocean. As dusk falls, the Sweet Pirates board the Going Luffy Senpai, and Desire thanks Luffy and Bartolomeo for taking care of her. Bartolomeo and his crew ask if she and her crewmates want to join the Barto Club, but Desire declines, wanting to pursue their dreams separately and not wanting to serve Luffy. The Sweet Pirates then head out to sea as the Going Luffy Senpai's sails are unfurled and the Straw Hats and Barto Club prepare to head to Zoo. Later in the night, a Revolutionary Army ship draws near to Gran Tesoro. Koala notes that the monster of the New World resides there, and his power is equal to that of the world nobles. Inside Gran Tesoro, Tanaka arrives and reports to the monster of the New World, a man named Gild Tesoro. Tanaka reports that Bill sank along with Silver Mine, but Tesoro is fine as he already had his fun with Bill, and now was time for the real entertainment to start. A marine fleet is escorting a girl who is snacking on candies given to her though complains about wanting meat. She also schemes to try to find a way to escape her captors though talks so loud that they can hear her. However, the ships are suddenly attacked by a nearby pirate ship under the command of Mad Treasure, a ruthless treasure hunter who ate the Jara Jara no Mai. His subordinates, Naomi Drunk, an archer who gets her aim while drunk and fires explosives, and Psycho P, a swordsman who ate the Iro Iro no Mai and can camouflage himself via spray cans, make quick work of the Marines before Treasure boards the lead ship. He finds the girl, Maskina Olga, being guarded by a masked CP0 agent who engages in battle with him. Olga makes a run for it and is seemingly cornered by Treasure's crew, but calls her pet dinosaur, Elizabeth, who can run on water, to save her. Treasure does not stop her as he knows she will lead him to the pure gold. After the raid, he talks with Tanaka, an associate of Gild Tesoro, who wishes to hire him to find the pure gold and will pay him whatever he wishes. Treasure states he doesn't really care for treasure but loves the thrill of finding it and accepts Tesoro's job. Tanaka gives him an invitation with a Viver card in it to Gran Tesoro to lead Treasure to the location once he succeeds. Meanwhile, Olga is making her way through the ocean, directionless and hungry, until spotting a ship in the distance which turns out to be the Thousand Sunny. Spotting the Straw Hats fishing and deeming them weak based on Luffy's looks, she makes her way to them feigning weakness till she is pulled aboard by the crew before trying to take Luffy hostage and demanding food for his release. However, the attempt fails when the crew don't show any worry for Luffy, and he gets along with Elizabeth. Sanji feeds her regardless, seeing how weak she is, and the Straw Hats introduce themselves to her. Robin manages to identify Olga being from alchemy by the pattern on her dress and reveals to the others that it is a lost island that was rumored to have birthed the pure gold said to be brighter and more valuable than a ton of regular gold. This interests the crew, and when Olga states she can lead them to it, they are more than willing to take her up on it despite overhearing that Olga would likely betray them the first chance she got. However, Mad Treasure's crew manages to catch up to Olga, and the Sunny with Treasure demanding they hand her over. When Olga refuses to go with him, he sends his crew after her, though the Straw Hats manage to fight them off. Treasure uses his powers to grab Olga and tries to pull him to his ship, but the Straw Hats pull her back, resulting in a tug of war. Zoro eventually cuts her free, but the ring she had on her finger flies off in the process, revealing it had pure gold in it, and lands in the ocean. This in turn summons a giant football fish which Olga calls Bonbonri. Bonbonri sucks up the ring and proceeds to do the same to the two ships. As the Straw Hats make to escape, however, Olga reveals that the pure gold is within Bonbonri's stomach, and they must venture inside him if they want it. The Straw Hats comply and head into the Sea King, with Mad Treasure following suit, ramming the side of the Sunny to get them to crash into Bonbonri's uvula. Luffy manages to save the ship but is knocked into the stomach acid in the process. Olga goes to save him with Elizabeth while the rest of the Straw Hats and Mad Treasure's crew drop into Bonbori's stomach. Luffy awakens to find himself on an island which Olga reveals is one of 3 that Bonbori has eaten and are all located within his stomachs, with the third, her home, alchemy, being where the pure gold is located. It is soon revealed that dinosaurs have survived within the island, and a few try to eat them, but Luffy manages to beat one and scare off the others. As they eat the dinosaur that was felled, Olga reveals that she is 200 years old, much to Luffy's shock. She goes on to explain that back then her father had created the pure gold which attracted pirates to her family, with her mother being killed as a result. She blamed her father for it and was going to throw the ring from earlier into the ocean to spite him when Bonbonri appeared and swallowed half the island with her and father along with it. She assumes her father died as she's the only survivor of alchemy. She has since stayed in the stomach for 200 years until one day was accidentally spat out. She was soon found out by Marines and captured by the CP0. She agrees to show Luffy the way out as long as they do as she says. Luffy agrees and they handshake on it. However, they are interrupted by the arrival of Mad Treasure, who has managed to find them. Both Luffy and he fight and are evenly matched. However, Treasure then reveals that he had managed to capture Usopp, Nami, Chopper, Robin, and Brook. Luffy tries to charge and attack Treasure, but he suddenly grabs Nami by using his chains and threatens to torture and kill her and the others by using his chain powers, forcing Luffy to surrender to keep her and the rest of the crew from getting hurt. Treasure binds him up and demands Olga to help him. She agrees, but only on the condition that the Straw Hats are not harmed. He agrees, though leaves Luffy to be dissolved by the tides of Bonbonri's acid. After they leave, a dinosaur come back and pick up Luffy in its mouth, intending to feed him to his young. He manages to get the dinosaur to spit him out and scares off the younglings. However, there turns out to be a rather chubby human in a costume among them. He frees Luffy and explains that he was swallowed with his island 200 years ago and survived by blending in with the dinosaurs and eating the meat fed to the young. However, when Luffy reveals that Olga's story was similar to his, the man reveals himself to be her father, Myskina Aesir, and more than thankful to hear that she's alive. With that, the two return to the beach and get the assistance of a dinosaur similar to Elizabeth, this one named Chavez, to cross the acid juices. Meanwhile, the captured Straw Hats are forced to row Treasure's ship in the lower decks. As they do, Nami reveals that she is familiar with Treasure as, before she met Luffy, she had tried to steal from Treasure's vault but ran into a competitor who had gotten there first. They were both found and captured by Treasure, but said competitor used Nami as a decoy and never came back for her. Olga takes that as a sign to never trust friends, but Nami states that she later found friends she could trust and that Olga should believe in Luffy. As that goes on, Luffy and Aesir make their way to the second stomach but have to stop when the acid there proves too much for Chavez to cross. They find the Thousand Sunny. They're suddenly attacked by a few of Treasure's men led by Psycho P. Despite using his powers to camouflage the men, Luffy manages to beat them and force Psycho P to retreat. Back with treasure, they finally reach Alchemy and the temple where the pure gold is held, but likewise find a sign from Aesir that warns them that those seeking the gold will be met with death. This is soon confirmed when one of Treasure's men comes out with an arrow in his back, signaling that the temple is booby-trapped. The group press on and soon come across the first trap, an organ that will shoot out arrows if the song given is not played correctly. Brooke, being a musician, volunteers to take the challenge but cannot play the final notes as the last page is faded out and a corner torn off. Robin and Chopper defend him from the arrows as he tries to figure out the last notes. Olga, seeing the trust between the crewmates in such a deadly situation, comes to their aid and sings a song taught to her by her mother, as it is the same one need to be played on the organ. With this, the group is able to bypass the trap and continue onward. As they head on, Psycho P arrives and informs Treasure of Luffy's survival, lifting the morale of his crewmates and Olga. Treasure leaves Psycho P and Naomi to guard the entrances as the group continues on. Back at the Sunny, Luffy finds Zoro and Sanji, who had gone off to get materials for the Sunny, as well as Frankie, who was on the ship fixing the damage done to it and converting it to survive the acid juices. With the monster trio united, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Aesir head off to catch up with the others. Meanwhile, Treasure's group have reached another trap that involving trying to open a drawbridge while avoiding the dinosaurs guarding the area. Usopp manages to use his sniping skills to drop the drawbridge while Chopper keeping the dinosaurs at bay. Luffy's group soon reach the temple but are attacked by Treasure's men. Zoro and Sanji stay behind to fight Naomi and Psycho P respectfully, while Luffy and Aesir run on ahead. As they do, Treasure's group have arrived at the last trap, which involves keyholes and needing to find the right one to open it with the key provided. Nami goes for the task but finds that when she picks a wrong one, the dummy keyhole shocks her and brings down the upper portion of the alligator-shaped structure on her with the intent to crush its victim. Usopp, P, Brooke, and Chopper try to hold it up as she continues, but it gets heavier with each wrong keyhole. Eventually, Nami faints from too many shocks, forcing Olga to try and continue in her place. However, she too can't find the right one, and it seems all of them will be crushed. Luckily, Luffy arrives and saves them by smashing the upper part of the alligator structure before angrily confronting Treasure. Aesir soon catches up and sees his daughter for the first time in 2 centuries. He tells her to leave with the straw hats before opening a trap down underneath them and dropping them into a hidden area. Going forward, they find it's Aesir's lab and within, the pure gold in a container. Robin finds a journal explaining that he had made the pure gold along with his wife to save his daughter as she had contracted a disease that will kill her as she grows older. The light of the pure gold, however, could slow a person's growth, so he cut off a piece and put it into a ring before giving it to Olga with the hope that she will survive long enough for a cure to be found. Olga soon realizes that her father does care for her and that he likewise was saddened over her mother's death, calling herself a fool for holding a grudge against him for so long. Above them, Aesir reveals to Treasure that he had implanted explosions around the temple and goes to activate it, intending to sacrifice himself to bury the pure gold and treasure along with it. Luffy's group feel the explosions going off and escape the area before the blast engulfs it. However, Treasure likewise manages to survive, though saved Aesir in the process, and land in front of the pure gold, claiming it for himself. Olga rushes to her father and reconciles with him, while Luffy goes to confront Treasure. The two begin to battle, trading blows and insights on what it means to hunt treasure. Luffy wanting to share the adventure and wealth with his friends, while Treasure believes he only needs people as tools to achieve his hunts. Eventually, Luffy manages to break through Treasure's chain defenses and sends him flying into Bonbonri's stomach lining, while at the same time, both Zoro and Sanji easily win their fights as well. Everyone boards the Thousand Sunny as the acid juice begin to back up due to Bonbonri's upset stomach and ride the current out, while Treasure's crew plea with him to board his ship, but his obsession with the pure gold results in him getting swallowed up by the juices just as he grabs it. The Thousand Sunny manages to escape from Bonbonri back into the new world. As they do, they see Bonbonri's antenna light glowing bright with pure gold, which Aesir explains is from the pure gold that he's eaten since he was attracted to the metal. But now that there is no more pure gold, it is unlikely he'll ever surface, and thus unlikely that they will see Alchemy again either as Bonbonri sails off into the distance. The Straw Hats soon reach a nearby island and drop Aesir, Olga, Elizabeth, and Chavez off. Though the parting seems bittersweet as without the ring with the pure gold, Olga's disease will eventually spread and kill her. However, when Aesir reveals that Olga's disease is called the South Blue Emperor Fever, Chopper reveals that there actually was a cure for it having been developed during the duo's time within Bonbori. Chopper gives it to Olga via needle shot, much to Olga's dread as she hates needles, before the crew part ways with the two to allow them to live out their new lives. While happy that they helped the father and daughter, the Straw Hats lament they did not get anything out of the adventure. That is until Nami reveals she swiped the invitation to Gran Tesoro off of Mad Treasure. Seeing it as a great consolation prize, the crew make their way to the cruise liner. After the credits, we see the masked CP0 member report back to his commanding officer about the loss of Olga and thus the pure gold. The officer decides it is for the best that it is lost since it keeps the world's balance in check. The two both correctly assume that Tesoro was the one behind Treasure's involvement. At Gran Tesoro, Tanaka reports of Mad Treasure's failure to obtain the pure gold to Tesoro. Tesoro brushes it off, however, and decides to find something to entertain himself with his vast fortune, while the woman from Nami's flashback sits at his side as he laughs. On the Thousand Sunny, the Straw Hat Pirates are having a barbecue, and the one who is enjoying it the most is Luffy. As Luffy is attempting to get more meat before it's ready, a volleyball game between Nami and Chopper versus Robin and Franky is occurring. In the conclusion of the game, the result is Nami and Chopper winning because Robin went against the rules and used her abilities. After the game, Robin gives Nami a golden coin. The Straw Hats then fantasize on what they'll do once they arrive on Gran Tesoro. Nami will go to the casino and use the golden coin, which equates to Billy 100. She received from Robin. Chopper will go to the amusement park. Luffy will go to the buffet in the Grand Hotel. Brook will go to a dance show with young women. Zoro will drink the world's best sake. Franky will drink cola. Sanji will spend time with women. Robin will get a massage, and Usopp will host a show in case betting in the casino fails. Usopp demonstrates his show by having a sumo wrestling match against Luffy. Luffy plays Kintaro Yokozuna, and Usopp plays as a rabbit that plays with Luffy in a mountain. During their match, Luffy is taking it seriously even though Usopp stated to him that it wasn't. Franky, playing as a bear, decides to have a match against Luffy and requests that they use their strength. In a close match that takes some time to complete, Franky and Luffy decide to use their signature attacks Gomu Gomu no Gigant Pistol and Franky Radical Beam. However, when Nami wakes up from her nap, she knocks out Luffy and Franky for being too reckless and they could destroy the ship. Doing this, she is crowned Yokozuna. However, she denies the title. The Straw Hats then notice a beam of light in the distance, so Nami looks at her Viver card for Gran Tesoro, and it seems they're approaching the City of Dreams. Gild Tesoro walks up to the top of a pillar and begins a spectacle, creating a spear out of his gold microphone and driving it into a hole, which causes the gold around him to liquefy and move around. He and Karina then sing for a jubilant crowd in a concert on Gran Tesoro. Meanwhile, the Straw Hat Pirates have reached Gran Tesoro and sail into it, wherein they are showered by gold dust. They are excited to be in the midst of this, with Nami wanting to collect all the gold dust that comes to them. They then use coup de burst to fly right into Tesoro's concert venue. However, they are immediately approached by a very long ship commanded by the Long Long Pirates. Wanting the Straw Hats' money, the Long Long Pirates board the Thousand Sunny on a very long cannon and attack. However, the Straw Hats easily defeat them, with Zoro, Sanji, Brook, and Franky taking down Narcy, Baron, Morkan, and Nipers respectively, while the others took care of the remaining crew members. Luffy confronts the captain, Long Long, as he grabs onto the mast and spins around it. Long Long brings out a machine gun hidden in his hair, but Luffy reflects the bullets back toward him as he spins toward the captain, taking him out with Gomu 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 no Jet Pistol. With their captain defeated, the remaining Long Long Pirates try escaping back on their ship, but Tesoro surrounds the ship and grabs them with tendrils of gold, dragging them high up into the air. The Long Long Pirates are then encased in gold, and as fountains of gold burst all around, Tesoro welcomes everyone to Gran Tesoro. The Straw Hats dock and gaze at Gran Tesoro in awe. They are then approached by the concierge Baccarat, who reveals that they are VIP guests due to their fame as pirates. Baccarat gives them a ride in an automobile powered by turtles known as turtle cars, driving them to the city. They pass through the downtown area, which contains resorts and all sorts of vacation facilities and destinations, before passing into the first-class city where all buildings are made of gold. The Straw Hats become more and more awestruck at the beautiful ship, but Baccarat reveals that there are Izo Den Den Mushi everywhere, and anyone caught cheating or stealing will be sent to an underground prison. Inside a security room, Tanaka and his assistants oversee dozens of camera monitors. They then reach a tall, golden hotel, where the Straw Hats change into fancy white outfits. Baccarat says that they can continue their VIP experience as long as they win more money, and despite Usopp being cautious about losing money by gambling, Luffy decides to continue on their unexpected vacation. They are suddenly approached by a group of small children, who are selling flowers for Billy 5,000 each. The Straw Hats are shocked by the high price, but the children say that they need to sell these flowers to purchase their freedom. However, Baccarat steps in and chases the children away from the VIP guests, and she resumes touring them around. Meanwhile, Tesoro and Karina oversee a party of the Gran Tesoro's staff, and Tanaka emerges from the floor to report to Tesoro about the Straw Hats within the city. A drunk employee, who knew Luffy's reputation and hubris, laughs wildly at Luffy's ambitions. However, Tesoro confronts him for laughing and flicks one of his rings at the man, allowing him to change its shape and wrap the man in gold. As the man apologizes in great fear, Tesoro liquefies the chandelier above him, sending it crashing down. He hardens it as it lands, causing the man's head to be trapped under a mass of gold. Tesoro then laughs profusely, and Tanaka asks what to do with the Straw Hats. Tesoro says to let them continue playing until they lose, and Tanaka jumps back into the floor. Baccarat takes the Straw Hats to a giant casino and loans them a box of chips that are worth belie 20 million in total. Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper then run off into a contest where the price of admission is belie 1 million, shocking Nami. Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper participate in a turtle car race, and as the race begins, Jimmy Myers initially leaps out to a large lead. However, Straight shoots and destroys his car, taking the lead, but due to his refusal to turn the car, he and his driver Curve drive off the track. Luffy's car passes several other competitors, but the driver in front, Whitejack, has Kiriko spray a liquid onto the track, which causes Luffy's car to skid and stop. As the Straw Hat trio recover and resume driving, Whitejack's car is forced off the track by Kent Beef Jr., but Count Times manages to maneuver in front of Beef. The Straw Hats then draw closer to Beef's car, and Pork throws a bale of hay at them, blocking their vision. The cars approach an extremely tight curve, and due to the Straw Hats' struggle to see through the hay, they careen off a cliff onto a golf course. However, as they skid around, Luffy pulls them back toward the track with Gomu 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 no rocket, and they fly through a Gran Tesoro logo. They then land right next to Beef and Times Count, and the three enter the home stretch neck and neck with each other. The Straw Hats manage to beat Beef and Times Count to the finish line by mere centimeters, and Nami rejoices at the profit they have made. The Straw Hats continue winning casino games, making a profit of barely 30 million. Baccarat then offers to take them to the VIP lounge, where they have the chance to become millionaires. As the elevator approaches the lounge, Tanaka leaps through the wall, shocking the Straw Hats. Baccarat reveals that Tanaka oversees the lounge and can phase through objects with the Nuke Nuke no Mai. The Straw Hats grab hold of Tanaka, and he takes them through the wall and into the lounge. The Straw Hats are appalled to see Marines Gion and Tokicake in the lounge, but Baccarat reveals that Gran Tesoro is an independent country that welcomes everyone and is free of Marine jurisdiction. Two large men then place large dice down, and between those dice is Dice, a fearsome warrior who now works here as a dealer. Dice then tosses the giant dice into the air and grabs hold of a giant metal container, flipping it upside down and allowing the dice to fall into it. He then flips the container back upside down, and the Straw Hats are awed by Dice's immense strength. Dice then destroys the container with his forehead while holding an axe for no reason, taking pleasure at the pain of impact, and the dice values are revealed. The Straw Hats agree to take the chance and become millionaires, with Luffy betting everything, and the first roll is successful. Tesoro and Karina then enter the room and greet the Straw Hats. Tesoro offers to challenge Luffy, saying that if Luffy wins, his profit will increase by 10 times. Luffy agrees to the challenge and bets all his tokens. Baccarat then removes her gloves and touches him on the shoulder. The dice are then rolled again and come up as a 2 and a 6. With Luffy having lost, Tesoro commends Baccarat on her ability. Baccarat reveals to the Straw Hats that she changed Luffy's luck with the Rocky no Mai, and Luffy suddenly gets a stomachache before slipping on a banana peel. Tesoro tells Luffy to hand over his chips, and the Straw Hats argue that they were cheated against, but Tesoro says the Straw Hats will have to work to repay their debt, as that is how Gran Tesoro operates. The Straw Hats realize they were tricked and prepare to fight, but Baccarat lures Sanji toward her and gives him bad luck as well, and Tanaka throws the Straw Hats into chaos by jumping in and out of the floor and shooting at them. Zoro then challenges Tesoro and rushes at him, but Tesoro encases Zoro's legs in gold and manipulates a golden dragon statue to counter his sword strike. As gold covers Zoro's abdomen and torso, Tesoro reveals that he has the power of the Goru Goru no Mai, giving him control over gold. When everyone enters Gran Tesoro, their bodies receive showers of gold, which he can use to control them. Tesoro tells the Straw Hats to repay the money they borrowed, and Nami attempts to intervene, but Karina holds a knife to her throat, and Nami recognizes Karina. Nami promises to repay the money, and Tesoro gives them until 12 tomorrow night to do it, or else he would kill Zoro in front of them. The Straw Hats go outside and are determined to free Zoro, but decide to eat and quell their hunger first. Suddenly, Karina runs by Nami, and Nami manages to grab her. The two greet each other, with Nami revealing that she stole a small box from Karina while she was running. Nami reveals to her crewmates that she knew Karina, as when she was an active thief, Karina sometimes managed to steal the treasure first. The group goes to a diner to eat, and Karina reveals that even though she is working for Tesoro, she is really going after his treasury, which is said to contain 20% of the world's active currency. Such wealth is enough to buy a small country as well as influence both the world government and the black market. Karina gives the Straw Hats the idea to steal from the treasury to free Zoro, though no thief has ever succeeded in stealing from it. Since they could not fight Tesoro due to his control over the gold on their bodies, they could manipulate the rules of Gran Tesoro to get Zoro back. The Straw Hats agree to this plan, although Nami wants to have Karina's key to the treasury, and the two start arguing. Suddenly, the Straw Hats see a group of men harass two children named Rika and Tempo, who had previously tried selling flowers to the Straw Hats by breaking some plates and adding to their debt. Karina reveals that the two children are forced to work like slaves due to their parents' debt, and as one of the men tries to punch Rika, the owner of the restaurant, Double Down, intervenes. Double Down apologizes for Rika and Tempo, and the men kick his lowered head, warning him that all guests must smile and forcing him to smile. After the men leave, Luffy asks why they did not fight back, but Rika shouts that there is no way to, and that Luffy does not understand before running out of the restaurant. Meanwhile, Tesoro sits in a pool of flowing gold when he is approached by Spandam. Tesoro has Tanaka appear and pay Spandam a large amount of heavenly tribute money in order to buy his services in taking care of the Straw Hats. However, after Spandam leaves, Tesoro requests that better world government agents be sent to Gran Tesoro as well. Somewhere else, Koala receives a call that the man they are looking for is in Gran Tesoro, and she tells the nearby Sabo that Luffy is in Gran Tesoro as well. Meanwhile, Sakazuki sits at a desk and wonders in anger why they are helping Tesoro. However, the CP0 agent in front of him states that they are not serving Tesoro. The agent takes his mask off, revealing himself to be Rob Lucci, and he says that the world government is taking care of their own business on Gran Tesoro. In Gran Tesoro, Sanji reads a poster advertising Zoro's upcoming execution, and he tells Luffy to go to sleep so they can begin their mission the next day. The next morning, the Straw Hats wake up and try on disguises, and Nami berates Luffy, Chopper, and Brook for trying on ridiculous disguises. Later, Nami meets with Karina on a rooftop, unhappily recalling the time Karina left her to die. The two had been caught and tortured by Mad Treasure while trying to steal his treasure, and Karina offered to go and repay him with more treasure, with Nami's life on the line should she not return. She did not return, and Nami tried to get back to the treasure she had hidden away, only to find that Karina had stolen it. Karina leaves the event in the past, angering Nami as she had nearly died, and she tells Karina that if she betrays them in this mission, she will never forgive her. The two petty thieves then make a pact. As night falls, the Straw Hats stand alongside Karina in their disguises. Karina goes over the plan to the forgetful Luffy, revealing that in the hyper-suite room at the top of the hotel, there is barely 500 billion stored, set aside as heavenly tribute to maintain the favor of the world nobles. However, the room is encased in gold, giving Tesoro control over it, and the only stairs there are heavily monitored by Izo Den Den Mushi. So Team A, Luffy and Frankie, will climb up the outside of the hotel, sneak into the giant clock, and go into the control room. There, they will disconnect the host Den Den Mushi from the Izo Den Den Mushi. Team B, Robin, Sanji, Usopp, Brook, Nami, Chopper, and herself will enter through the VIP lounge. They should be able to escape inspection and will enter another door inside the room. If they pass the security to that door, they will head toward a large corridor that leads to the stairs to the hyper-suite room. Once the Izo Den Den Mushi are shut down, they can access the hyper-suite room with a giant golden key and the mission will be complete. Luffy and Frankie climb up part of the hotel, but the remainder of the tower does not have handholds. However, Frankie shoots out plungers from his shoulders that attach to the wall, giving him and Luffy something to hold on to. Meanwhile, while the Straw Hats in Team B hide behind a pillar, Karina distracts some workers who are delivering a metal dice container to the VIP points room. While she distracts them, the Straw Hats leap into the container. Tanaka oversees the container being transported, and he allows Karina to follow after it, allowing her to rendezvous with the Straw Hats when the container is stored away. Meanwhile, Luffy and Frankie rappel from plunger to plunger, trying to avoid detection inside and outside the hotel. However, as they draw closer to the clock, the plunger Luffy is holding on to slips off, causing him to fall and forcing Frankie to catch him. This causes Frankie's plunger to slip off as well, though as they fall, Frankie uses coup de bout to propel both of them back up. Both of these actions cause some people in a dining room to notice them, and Frankie and Luffy reach the clock but start falling again. However, Luffy manages to grab hold of the clock's minute hand and pull him and Frankie all the way up to it. They then enter the giant clock through the glass, which Tesoro cannot feel. Meanwhile, Team B runs through the hotel and approaches the door guarded by security. Robin uses her devil fruit powers to take out the guards, and the team enters a large hallway. The hall is being guarded by red-eyed owls which shoot red beams out of their eyes. Anything living that makes contact with these beams will cause the owls to screech loudly. Being able to understand the owls, Chopper can listen their observation patterns and helps his teammates avoid the beams. The team reaches the end of the hall right as the owls all start looking towards them, and Brook is caught in the beams. However, due to his skeletal body, the owls do not register him as alive, and the team moves on. Karina contacts Luffy and Frankie, who are in an air vent directly above the host Den Den Mushi. She tells them what pipeline to attach the silver Den Den Mushi to in order to shut off the connection to the main stairway, and Luffy rappels down to it. However, he fails to stretch far enough and is sent flying back to the vent opening. The security guard looks around to find the source of the noise but does not see Luffy. Luffy then rappels down again and successfully attaches himself to the pipe, allowing him to put the silver Den Den Mushi on it. However, he loses his connection to the air vent and is discovered by the security guard, who raises the alarm, which Team B hears. Tanaka sees the disturbance from the control room, and footage of Luffy is broadcast throughout Gran Tesoro, which Rika and Tempo see. Frankie protects Luffy from the security guard's gunshots and fills the room with smoke, allowing them to retreat. However, Frankie is suddenly stabbed through the back by a tendril of gold, and Tesoro and Tanaka enter the room through the floor. Tesoro says that Luffy's intrusion is not unexpected, but he is surprised by Luffy's willingness to put Zoro's life more in danger, as he displays a monitor showing Zoro almost completely encased in gold. Luffy attacks Tesoro, but Tesoro hides behind a wall of gold before punching Luffy with a gold-encased fist. Luffy attacks again, but Tesoro performs Ganbamba to him. Tesoro states that he is invincible here and tells Luffy that no one can succeed without money. However, Luffy tells Tesoro that he will not let him control him, which angers Tesoro as he briefly remembers parts of his past. Tesoro gives Luffy the chance to try defying him as he throws Luffy to the ground before walking away. Tanaka then drops down from the ceiling, creating a giant hole, known as Bottomless Hell, that Luffy and Frankie fall into. Tesoro then ends the broadcast, referring to it as an entertainment spectacle and telling his viewers to watch for the next one. After viewing the broadcast, an emotional Rika gives up completely on fighting Tesoro's regime and runs away along with Tempo. Tesoro removes the silver Den Den Mushi from the pipeline and tells Tanaka to keep an eye on various places in the hotel. Meanwhile, Team B is disconnected from Luffy and Frankie and is forced back through the hall by security. While escaping from security, they enter another secret hall. Inside the hall, they are suddenly approached by the world noble Saint Camel and his entourage, and they are forced to hide behind a pillar. Luffy and Frankie fall down to a massive room composed entirely of gold and containing many gold structures. They see skulls as well as emaciated people in this room, and the people offer as much gold in return for any food or water Luffy and Frankie may have. However, the two of them have neither, and a small man sitting in the shadow of a structure reveals that much of Tesoro's gold supply comes from here, and he imprisons people with nothing except gold in order to torture them. Frankie then recognizes the man as a famous hero named Ray's Max, but the man states that he abandoned the name after suffering defeat here in Gran Tesoro. Luffy attempts to find an escape from the room and tries to free his arms from being encased in gold, but Max says that it is useless. There is only one way to free oneself of the gold sprayed onto them that allows Tesoro to control them, and that is to travel down a large pipe all the way to a tank filled with seawater. The chances of success are extremely small, but Luffy decides to take the risk and manages to jump in the pipe and land safely. Frankie tells Max that nothing is impossible, and all risks are worth taking in order to defeat Tesoro as he jumps in the pipe as well. Meanwhile, Tesoro approaches the trapped Zoro, thanking him for giving him such a spectacle to present. However, Zoro is still confident in his crewmates, and Tesoro mocks this as he walks away. In the hotel, Team B has stolen the uniforms of the world nobles that had passed by them and acts as though the security guards have stolen their treasure. Believing they are actual world nobles, the security guards profusely apologize for the misconduct Usopp states that they have done, and fearfully retreat from the premises. The team removes their bubble helmets and runs through the hall to the stairs once again, making sure to hurry before they are caught. Meanwhile, Luffy, Frankie, and the prisoners that had jumped into the pipe run down the pipe as they battle a swarm of gold-colored bats. They then come to a large vertical pipe that has an extremely big and fast fan made of sea stones spinning below. Knowing there was no way they could get past that, Max advises Luffy to turn around, but Luffy is determined to keep going and leaps toward the fan. However, the fan beats him around, and at one point sends him crashing into the wall, forcing Frankie to stretch out his hand and rescue Luffy. Despite this experience, the injured Luffy refuses to turn back, causing Max to be moved. Max then decides to help Luffy and measures the position of the fan. He then leaps into it but is caught by one of the blades and tossed around by the sheer force of it. However, Max manages to regain his composure and hang on top of the fan blade, allowing him to crawl towards the wall. He then puts himself against the wall and holds back the fan with every ounce of his strength, seeing the fan begin to slow down. The other prisoners jump to the fan and hold it back until it is completely stopped. Finally, Luffy, Frankie, and the prisoners reach the tank of seawater, and Team B reaches the door to the hyper-suite room. Karina then unlocks and opens the door, but as it opens, fireworks are immediately triggered, and the Straw Hats find themselves not in the hyper-suite room, but on a balcony directly facing the audience and the imprisoned Zoro. Tesoro welcomes them to his spectacle and Karina heads toward him, revealing that she had been working for him the entire time. The Straw Hat's quest was nothing more than an elaborate game set up by Tesoro, all leading to this giant spectacle. Tesoro then shows video feed of Luffy, Frankie, and the prisoners trying to get seawater. Luffy manages to break open the seawater tank, allowing him and the prisoners to wash Tesoro's gold off of them. However, Tesoro opens the grates around them, causing water to flood the room and submerge them. Tesoro states that those without money cannot achieve anything, and Luffy and Frankie try to escape, but eventually succumb to the water. Sanji races forward to attack Tesoro, but he summons several tendrils of gold. Sanji attempts to fight the tendrils, but he and the rest of his crewmates are eventually trapped by them, and their skin is slowly encased in gold. Tesoro then has them watch as he creates two enormous axes to execute Zoro. However, right as the axes start to swing, all of Gran Tesoro's power goes out. Tesoro and his subordinates get confused, and Nami starts laughing as she reveals that Tesoro and his crew were the ones who were tricked the entire time. The openings that once sprayed flowing gold now spray seawater, which Tanaka succumbs to. Dice protects Tesoro from the deluge, which frees the Straw Hats from their gold bindings and frees everyone on Gran Tesoro from Tesoro's control over them. Tesoro then confronts the Straw Hats, wanting to know what had happened, and Nami reveals that Karina's plan all along had been to release seawater throughout Gran Tesoro, and all of them except Luffy had known that. They then cast away their disguises in favor of leather jacket outfits, and Luffy is suddenly shot out of the main spout in the city before falling to his crewmate's location. Luffy prepares to take down Tesoro, and Zoro arrives to join the fight as well. However, Tesoro's rage grows more and more as he remembers his past. He enjoyed singing, but his mother hated it. He initially was involved with criminals, but one day met a girl named Stella who was kept in a human shop. Tesoro fell in love with Stella and worked to buy her freedom, though he had already won her heart. However, a world noble came in one day and bought Stella, and Tesoro was enslaved as well, which caused the hoof of the soaring dragon to be put on his back. However, Tesoro managed to escape during Fisher Tiger's attack and replaced his mark of slavery with a star mark. He then began his rise to power, which included acquiring his devil fruit from the Don Quixote pirates. In a fit of rage, Tesoro blows up the hotel as massive amounts of gold rise up around the venue, and Tesoro covers everyone around him in gold as he asserts his absolute power. However, the Straw Hats manage to escape the deluge with Frankie, Robin, and Sanji flying their crewmates to safety. As the destruction settles, the Straw Hats land at the entrance of the destroyed venue, but Tesoro laughs as a giant golden arm reaches toward the Straw Hats. Tesoro then rises up as a gigantic gold golem made of the ruined Central Hotel, declaring himself as the god of this place and stating that the Straw Hats are nothing more than rubbish. However, Luffy is still intent on defeating Tesoro and activates Gear 2 as he rushes toward him. Luffy activates Gear 3 as the two clash, but the power of Tesoro's new form overwhelms Luffy and sends him crashing into the city. There, Luffy is approached by Spandam, who laughs gleefully as he holds up spiked chains. The Straw Hats rush to Luffy, but Zoro intercepts a surprise attack by Dice, who is now wearing golden armor. Zoro uses his strength to push Dice back and manages to injure him, but Dice enjoys his injuries. Tanaka and Baccarat then appear with golden armor as well, and Tesoro offers to give the Straw Hats all the wealth they want as he sends his crew after them. Meanwhile, Luffy is weakened and bound in place by Spandam's sea-stone spiked chains, though he fails to recognize the CP0 agent. As Spandam prepares to kill Luffy with the sealed Funkfried, Rika suddenly rushes in and intercepts Funkfried with his pipe. Rika states that he does not want to live as a slave to money anymore, and Spandam laughs at this as Tesoro's men come rushing at them, saying that money is what holds power. However, Max and the prisoners arrive and take out Tesoro's men, and Max tells Rika that they will put an end to this together. As Max's gang rushes forward, Luffy frees himself from his chains and punches Spandam into the ground, defeating him. Meanwhile, Zoro blocks Dice's powerful axe swings before leaping up and striking the dealer in the head. Dice uses Busoshoku Haki to block the strike, though Zoro disarms him and blows him away with another attack. However, Dice leaps at Zoro, covering his entire head in Busoshoku Haki, and Tesoro grabs Zoro's swords with gold tendrils. Dice then rolls into Zoro, disarming him, and he picks up Zoro's swords as Tesoro attacks more of the Straw Hats in his new form. Meanwhile, Tanaka falls into the ground, where he jumps in and out in various locations around Sanji and Robin. He then starts shooting at them as he pops in and out, and when Sanji barely misses him, he appears behind Sanji and points his gun at him. Meanwhile, Baccarat touches several of Tesoro's employees, and a pillar falls on them. Usopp tries shooting her while her back is turned, but his shot misses and hits an employee. Baccarat states that her devil fruit allows her to store up the luck she takes from other people and become very lucky, and decides to fight with only her luck and a coin, which she throws at Usopp, Chopper, and Brook. One of the employees steps on the coin, causing his foot to break, which causes him to fall down and pull another employee's pants down, which causes that employee to shoot his arrow in shock. The arrow falls right in front of another employee, who shoots the man next to him in shock, causing the man to fire his rocket launcher. Two employees on the top of a building prepare to throw a bomb down, but they are hit by the rocket, causing the bomb to fall on Usopp, Brook, and Chopper. Baccarat continues throwing her coin at the three pirates, causing them continued pain, until Usopp finally decides to run away. Meanwhile, Luffy hits Tesoro in the face with a haki-imbued fist, but Tesoro retaliates by sending Luffy into the ground with his giant golden fist. Luffy flies underground for a bit before he jumps back up and hits Tesoro's face with Gomu Gomu no Grizzly Magnum, though this does no real damage and Tesoro is excited to be fighting someone worth Billy 500 million. Luffy then leaps onto Tesoro's arm and runs toward his head, but he suddenly receives a barrage of cannon fire from marine battleships. The marine ships, with Rob Lucci and St. Camel on board, continue firing on Gran Tesoro in order to destroy it, allegedly due to endangering the world nobles on board. However, a fiery explosion suddenly occurs on the front of the ship as Sabo confronts Lucci and the Marines, not willing to let them attack Luffy. In retaliation for the marine attack, Tesoro shoots a golden beam from his golem's eye and destroys one of the marine ships. Lucci is surprised by Sabo's statement and transforms into his human beast form as the two clash. As Tesoro continues attacking the marine ships, Luffy takes him by surprise by hitting his golem in the head yet again with Gomu Gomu no Red Hawk. However, Tesoro hits Luffy with Gon Inferno to send Luffy flying away in a fiery explosion. Luffy flies a long distance away and struggles to get up. Karina is left kneeling in awe at Tesoro's power, and Tesoro prepares to get revenge on her by stomping on her. However, Nami runs in and rescues Karina, intent on repaying her for what happened years ago. When Mad Treasure had prepared to execute Nami, Karina had come in with a white flag in order to lure the treasure pirates to her, allowing Nami to escape. Now Nami tells Karina that just like that time, they can now survive by fighting as a team. However, Tesoro grabs Nami and claims otherwise, saying only jealousy helps people succeed. Right then, Luffy angrily yells out to Tesoro to let her go and telling him that he would not stop, which surprisingly causes Tesoro to briefly see his younger self trying to save Stella while he was being taken away from her and Luffy when he is trying to save Nami. However, he laughs it off and throws Nami with great force. Karina desperately tries to catch her, but Luffy wraps his arms around both of them and runs away. As Tesoro prepares to strike, Luffy calls out to Robin as he throws Nami and Karina away, and Robin catches the two with spider net. Tesoro then notices that his outstretched arm is encountering great resistance, and Luffy, now in Gear 4, propels himself upward, shattering Tesoro's arm. Luffy then flies upward and knocks Tesoro's golem to the ground with Gomu Gomu no Kongun. Meanwhile, Robin binds Tanaka with a giant arm and several smaller arms, knocking his gun out of his hand. Tanaka cannot phase through Robin's flesh, and so cannot do anything against her. Sanji then activates Diable Jambi and barrages Tanaka's face with kicks, sending him flying far away. Baccarat prepares to finish off Chopper and Brook and flicks her coin at them, but suddenly Usopp returns and fires a giant ball at her. The ball intercepts the coin but misses Baccarat, and she laughs, but Usopp fires a Midori Boshi Dokuro Bakuhatsu so at her. The shot makes contact and injures Baccarat, leaving her bewildered that her luck ran out. However, Usopp's first shot opens up to reveal a slot machine that Baccarat's coin had won the jackpot on, meaning that her luck had been completely spent. Dice strikes Zoro with his own swords, but to the former's shock, Zoro counters them with only his haki-imbued arms. Zoro says that the swords alone cannot bring him down, and he uses Tatsumaki to send Dice flying away in a whirlwind. Dice spins towards Zoro at a high speed, but Zoro reclaims one of his swords and uses Shishi Sunsen, causing Dice's armor to crack up and Dice to fall to the ground, defeated though happy. Tesoro's remaining men, seeing their superiors defeated, run in fear, but Tesoro liquefies his golem and sends waves of gold crashing down on everyone in Gran Tesoro. He then stands on a giant mound of gold, watching in glee as he has everyone sink into liquid gold. However, Luffy manages to stay in the air as he angrily calls out Tesoro's name, and Tesoro enjoys Luffy's anger. Luffy flies up toward Tesoro, not wanting him to control his friends. As Luffy expands and retracts both of his arms, Tesoro sends a massive gold tendril flying toward him, an attack known as Gon Liradido. Luffy clashes with the tendril with Gomu Gomu Domu no Leo Rex Bazooka and is seemingly crushed as everyone on the Gran Tesoro and marine ships, including Lucci Ic and Sabo, who pause in their fight, are awed by the force of the clash, while Tesoro declares himself to be a god. However, Luffy is showed to still be alive, pushing against the tendril. He rejects Tesoro's statement as he breaks through the gold tendril and unleashes the finishing blow on Tesoro. In his moment of defeat, Tesoro remembers Stella's departure. As his massive mound of gold disintegrates, the people of Gran Tesoro cheer as his defeated body falls from the air and crashes into the marine ship where Sabo and Lucci are fighting. Lucci orders the Marines to seize him as he departs from his battle with Sabo. However, an alarm starts beeping on Gran Tesoro, and monitors come up showing a countdown. Karina reveals that the ship is going to sink and tells everyone to escape. The escapees are initially blocked by the continued marine attacks, but Frankie arrives in the General Frankie and clears the way for them. However, Karina decides to stay behind, wanting to continue luring the Marines to Gran Tesoro. She and Nami embrace, and Frankie takes Nami away as the timer continues ticking. The pirates, Marines, revolutionaries, and citizens all stand and watch on their ships as the timer reaches 0. When it does, however, fireworks explode over Gran Tesoro. The Straw Hats look and see Karina standing on the top of it as Gran Tesoro sails away, and they realize that she has duped them in order to gain access to its riches. However, they laugh it away and are forced to retreat when the Marines start firing at them. As they do so, Nami finds a letter on her person from Karina with encouraging words toward her, and it is revealed that Nami did not leave completely empty-handed, as she managed to swipe Tesoro's gold rings off of him. The Sunny continues sailing into the distance as it is pursued by the Marines.